Covers voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KeaversVoice.com. Covers voice, Covers voice, coversvoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique to spice up your closet with trendy, unique looks. We have fashionable and chic looks at very affordable prices. Velvet Boutique offers free shipping all year long on all orders. Shop online at www.melvetboutique.com. That's www.melvetboutique.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is Brian Fulford. A.D. Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
We are making the virtual HBCU experience available wherever you live through Stillman Online. We offer online degrees in business, criminal justice, psychology, and religion. Stillman also offers technology badges in cybersecurity and data analytics. You can participate in all student activities, fraternities and sororities, internships, graduation ceremonies, and much more. Apply for admission today at stillman.edu. Stillman College, where we prepare you for a different world.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Yeah, I love my HBCU, and boy, I love it, I love it, I love my HBCU, and man, I hope my team they won one, I hope my team they won one, yeah, man, I hope my team they won one, I hope my team they won one, yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with all the fellas. That's Professor Bishop, Professor Washington, and Professor Drew. We will have Professor Sims Jr. in shortly. BJ Jones, I think he did a little too much in New Orleans. So he said he's on assignment at the last minute there. So I just say, look excited. Charles, things must have worked out in his favor. I'm just saying, welcome to episode 336 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab Radio Show and Podcast, the show that covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports. From institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studio and sending a signal live, KSWH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Fame. You know him as Ralph Cooper, multi-Hall of Fame in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. As you see, we do have Mr. Joshua Sims, Professor Sims Sr. over here, as he is ready to get it in. We're gonna invite him over here to the SWAC and partake a little bit of our festivity, or what we call Championship Week. As we get into the big game, Drew has experienced this from the outside, that is, last year, but they're moving forward, and we'll see if they can find a way to seat at the table, much like Mike's Prairie View Panthers, as they experienced it live and direct next year and decided not to do it this year. But that's a whole nother story.
You had one job. You had one job. You had one damn job.
What a sign. With that being said, let me see how the gentleman doing. We're gonna let Professor Sims in the door earlier. You're a little late to the class, but he slid in just in time. He did have a great late session last night on Twitter with HBCU Nightly, the special edition. A lot of good talk in there. We even had Coach KJ Black come in there. Moose's mom got up and talked a little bit, just said thanks for the most part, but I like that. And I see Professor Sims even have Bojangles in the background. I see you stepped it up a little bit, Josh. Let me go to you first, since you've seen learned a little bit, and you adding some skills to the table. Let me do you right and say, all right, how you doing this morning? What were your thoughts of what took place yesterday?
Hey, Doc. Hey, man. Hey, I appreciate them compliments, man. I'm trying to move this thing a little further forward. You know what I mean? But yeah, last night we had a phenomenal late night session. We normally don't do HBCU Nightly on Saturday night, but obviously with all the festivities this week, Thanksgiving, pre-Thanksgiving, post-Thanksgiving, we wanted to make sure you know how it is. And then obviously all of the games, Turkey Day Classic and all of that stuff. And then obviously the game yesterday was incredible. But as far as how I'm doing, Doc, man, blessed and highly favored, man, cannot complain. As y'all see the bows back there, man, and it's some other things that's going to pop up on the screen. Just glad to be in the building with the Generals again this Sunday, man, and ready to get to it, baby. Let's get to it.
Oh, Charles, did you hear that? He said some other things going to pop on the screen. He's really sitting up there. He's showing out. I see you, Professor. Yeah, you didn't acknowledge it, but you went to that training session that they had last week before Thanksgiving, didn't you?
Show your brother some love. I appreciate that. I did. I was in the front row of the training session, and I'm gonna try to show off my skills this week.
I see it. I like it.
The young Padawan has picked up new tricks.
No doubt about it. Let me go second to clinical professor Drew over there. As again, we let him behind the scenes, sometimes in front of the camera. Every once in a while, we bless him, because he can come out with some good nuggets. Let me see how he's doing down that way. What's generally on your mind? By the way, great show with the D2 analysis you brought the other day. Great components and breakdown as usual, but that was significant.
I'm doing all right, fellas, and it's just a sad day because with the Bayou Classic D2 football playoffs. It marks the end of football season, and it just leaves a hole right here in your heart, because I just think back to July when we were all at the most of us were at the SWAC Media Day and other media days throughout the season, and it's a time of transition. This period is normally called crossover season, but crossover season is almost over. There are only 2 HBCU football games left, fellas. 2.
That's it.
That's it.
It's 2. That's it.
Yep.
Great point made. Speaking of basketball season, for some people officially like Mike and the Panthers, it's officially basketball season. I'll go to Mike first. But before we do that, I will say, Joshua, we are going to pull you into these media days. So make sure you stack your days off, because you need a couple of them so you can do the SWAC Media Day. It's large and significant. And I actually do the MEAC. So we're going to bring you on over there so you can celebrate the home team and do the MEAC as well. So
need that.
Make sure you put them days together so we can plug you and put you in some of these media days so we can show off your skills even more on that side of it. So be ready.
Yes, sir.
With that being said, let me go to Mike. I don't know, you might be going to talk about some of the basketball wins. I mean, the Panthers do have a winning record in basketball, men's side 4-2. Women are not doing bad.
What's a D1?
So, as what I've heard, you're officially, as I got text yesterday, you're officially a basketball school.
That's right. We've been saying it on the 1876. But hey, it's basketball season for us. And the Panthers are 4-2 with some D1 wins, so they're looking good. But back to Mr. Professor Drew's point, it is sad, but I am still looking forward to a couple of great games. Even though Southern has played one team before, I'm looking forward to a couple of really good games to mark the end. So I want to celebrate this season with those 2 games. I look forward to Atlanta as well. You got 2 home bases, 2 fan bases, or 3, whichever 2 happen to end up in Atlanta. Charles is looking at me. But and we know one's already in Atlanta, that's the Eagles, but you have 2 great fan bases, and I really look forward to that as well. I don't want to call it chalks and say bye-bye football season. You still have 2 games to look forward to. So, and speaking of the SWAC Media Day, Josh, we also do have a pre-SWAC Media Day, post-SWAC Media Day, and then a post after SWAC Media Day.
Treat it like Turkey Day.
I'm just putting it out there.
Leftovers.
Mike, man, we on the international TV. I have to tell everybody else.
I said we could have been talking about food, man. I'm just saying.
They ain't crazy. They ain't crazy,
Mike. I'm going to save the best for last. The guy that has all the hair on his chest right now.
Yeah,
his chest is all out there. Things are really looking good. But before I do that, I'm gonna make him pause and wait a little bit to keep that chuckle off his face. Let me shout out all these lab listeners out here: Carol Killam, Chuck Hunt, Theron Waters in the building, Jimmy Wilson, Emma Price, Carol Keelam. Who else we got out here? Brandon King, Mary Allen, G. Boom Holly, Chris Barber, Lonnie Shaw, Carl Moore, Michael Ford, Ricky Burton are all in the building. Appreciate y'all. Lennon Blow is in the building. BJ Jones, even though he's not live, he's at least watching and making sure that we treat him right, because and we told him that he maybe had too much fun down in New Orleans, sleeping in faith. Dr. Roderick Bott Holmes is in the building. Barrett Williams, go Jags. Congratulations, Barrett. Who else we got in here? Sure, now we'll shout them out as they come. With that being said, let's go back to Professor Bishop, because we know it's certainly still football season for Charles out there, the pregame show and all the things they do. Now you've learned your opponent. We've sat you on the cusp the last couple of weeks. As you knew you were in the SWAC championship game, you knew you were going to host. Now you have your opponent. It's probably your favorite frenemy. I don't know how you want to say that in this matchup. What's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on how everything went this past week?
Well, first of all, I don't know about all this. It's a sad day stuff. I have no clue what AD is talking about.
That's because your team's still playing.
Because it's still a happy day for some of them. So what I would like though is for all my Texas Southern and Prairie View alums to reach out to your Southern people and let them have your hotel room. So I will say that. That's important because they are texting and they are looking for rooms in Jackson this weekend. So there are a few rooms available. Yeah, looking forward to it. This is going to be a really
Can they get the rental car
fun weekend. Yeah, the rental car too. Get all that good stuff. It's going to be a really fun weekend with Jackson State and Southern Part 2. And we'll see what happens this upcoming weekend. It should be fun. Looking forward to it. Yeah, looking back, AD, it seems like Media Day was just yesterday, but here we are. It is SWAC Championship weekend.
Oh, payback's gonna be sweet. You do know that, right? I'm just saying, payback.
I got a bunch of Valley folks texting me right now, like, is that him? Is that him?
Look, hey Charles, everybody in the SWAC is just saying it's round ball season. Revenge will be ours.
Exactly.
Yeah, you might get it.
Hey Chuck, quick question. Were you just being the hospitality and tourism manager for the city of Jackson?
They asked me to do my part, so I'm just trying to do my part to sell a few, rental cars and sell a few hotel rooms. Thank you. I'm sure Ricky Thigpen is happy that I'm out here doing a little.
He on a first name basis with it.
Yeah, on the behalf of the city of Jackson, Yolanda Moore, all those great people. Jackson, Convention Bureau. Yeah.
Oh, now he name tossing. See, now he name dropping. See, enough.
This is a paid endorsement by.
Exactly.
Oh, shoot, yo,
hey, all I know is when next time we go out to eat, the ticket's on you.
We'll take on that mantle. I will take on the mantle of being the gracious host this weekend.
With that said, let me officially give a shout out to Pine Bluff Golden Lions. Good for them to be able to get that conference victory. Interim coach, shout out to him. Shout out to BJ Jones and the rest of the Jaguars for getting it done. But we'll get into those official matchups shortly after this quick break. But before we do that, Joshua Sims, I always like the fact that you get to come in and provide a different perspective. You see all this stuff going on with the SWAC. What is your thought? Do you like this idea of this SWAC championship game to culminate things after the regular season? From the outside looking in, I know it's a little difficult in terms of the MEAC with just 6 teams in regards to that. What are your thoughts on that in terms of how the season stretches out into Thanksgiving and now really a week after that versus closing things when you see a lot of FCS programs close out the week before Thanksgiving?
Yeah,
talk about
Doc.
those 2 things.
Yeah, Doc. I've always kind of observed this format from a distance. Obviously, being a MEAC guy, I live in MEAC and CIAA territory, so I grew up in this area. So it was always interesting to observe from a distance. Being technically on the other side of this. But this is my first year being in, fully submerged in Black media, being a part of the HBCU media and really being a part of this. And I have to say, man, I actually kind of like it. It gives us enough attention throughout a spread, enough spread attention, man, as this thing continues to go. If I had to give an opinion as far as for how I would like to, and obviously, Doc, you've seen me lay this out on HBCU Nightly, you've seen me lay this out on Twitter and through our forms of media, that I would like to see this be a part of a larger kind of celebration bowl format. The SWAC championship kind of stay what it is. And then, obviously the MEAC just ain't going to get to a spot where it can be able to have a conference championship no time soon, at least, and then leave the door open for an at-large bid to be put in place. But I like the fact that we have HBCU football being played continuously through November. And then into December, you get the culmination that is the Celebration Bowl. that kind of puts the cherry on top, man. So, it was different observation of it on the other side prior to getting into it. But, as a person who wants to see HBCU football being played continuously as long as possible throughout the year, man, I have to say I've really enjoyed this, man, and I'm really going to enjoy it. I am coming down to Mississippi next week, Chuck. So I'm going to be in the building, dog. I'll be there to check out this the SWAC championship game.
Come forward.
I'm looking forward to it. And I will have notepads in hand. I will have Huddle Up on my phone. So I am going to be there as an analyst for North Carolina Central for whoever we end up playing. So.
Smart.
And you get to see all that SWAC arrogance come out next week.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a beautiful. And I want to ask you that, AD Drew.
SWAC arrogance.
Since moving into the family, obviously over the last 2 years, and being right on the edge, being a part of it in some ways, but officially, if you would, just share your thoughts. How much has your experience been? How have you really appreciated it, or maybe not so much?
Well, coming from the MEAC culture, which Florida A&M and Bethune came from, the MEAC was always a basketball conference. Even though we played football, the MEAC always seemed like a basketball conference. And, for down in the South in Florida is probably more rich on its football and baseball history than it is on its basketball history. Now, let's take back to the early 2000s when you had Winston-Salem in and Savannah State, and you were thinking that maybe we go ahead and get that one other team and we have our own championship game also. Well, that went out the window when Winston-Salem decided to go back to the CIAA, and the dominoes started to fall. So for us down in Florida, we were trying to, I don't want to say duplicate it, but create our own different scenario with the championship game. And then when you saw the Celebration Bowl come in with the SWAC champion and the MEAC champion, especially considering our lack of success in the playoffs and getting a fair shake in the playoffs, a lot of us down there were really hoping that there was some way that we could create a championship game model. But my final point is, without the championship game for the MEAC, it's just the fact that the MEAC has beaten the SWAC 5 of the 6 times that they've played. So the old rest versus rust argument has favored the MEAC by not being able to get to what a lot of people really wanted to get to, which was that championship game model. And once again, this year, you'll get the chance to see it, because I believe in damn near every one of those, except for the A&T run, the second and third A&T teams, I believe the SWAC team was probably favored in the Celebration Bowl. But the rest beat the rust 5 out of 6 times.
Great point. Great points. Great points. Great breakdown. With that, let's get into our first break. We'll come back on the other side. As we do that, shout out to those in the mix. I see some of this going back and forth, and I see you, Charles, even getting in there. Appreciate you making sure you entertain the folks, giving you some shine in regards to the dialogue going over in the chat. Particular shout out to Varick. I see he's excited. He thinks this is going to be different. We'll see how that goes. One thing I will say with Varick is, no matter how the game turns out, he will be back after the fact. He will not run it high. With that being said, let's stick back. We'll be right back after this quick break. We'll get into the breakdown of the games that took place yesterday, including the one on Thursday for Thanksgiving Day. So stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
T. Madden & Associates is a sophisticated and experienced law firm located in your neighborhood. We're turning injury to cash.
T. Madden and Associates obtained almost $2 million for my injury. They turned my injury to cash.
Now, we can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients.
Call T. Madden & Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
Q Time is our classic Atlanta soul food restaurant located in the historic West End.
John Maxwell Leadership Principles.
We use these proven principles to conduct workshops.
Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food?
Plus the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know him like I know him, they gon' pay attention. Cause he gon' teach a lesson.
All right, perfect.
We done lost it, bro.
This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We also have our clinical professor, A.D. Drew, our football guru, Joshua Sims Sr. Let's get into the talk to get in some of these matchups this past weekend, starting with the Division II second round playoffs. We had Benedict that came in undefeated, playing some really good football, and getting the host, Wingate. Wingate previously played in the first round and upset Virginia Union, and I say that by the seeds that came into that matchup, and Virginia Union had this own game. So coming out of this matchup, when you look at it, is the fact that you had Wingate win their second road game, defeating HBCU on the road, getting it done. This game was much closer than that in a lot of ways. But let me go starting with Drew to talk a little bit about this matchup of Wingate and Benedict, what he saw in the matchup, what took place.
Man, that defense, they was the number one defense in Division II, and they showed it. The same formula that they used to beat Virginia Union last week by stuffing the run, forcing Benedict to become one-dimensional. And despite those long receivers that Benedict had, they were not able to get off. And that's basically what happened. They stuffed the three-headed monster of Benedict by stuffing and running game. They collapsed the pocket on Phoenix when he did decide to pass. So you couple that with the turnovers, and it was a sad day for Benedict. Let's put this into perspective, though. The 16 points that Benedict gave up in the first half was more points than they had given up in any game in 8 of their 11 games. Let me rephrase that. They gave up 16 points in the first half. They only gave up more than 16 points in 3 entire games. And they gave up 20 twice and 21. The 6 points that they scored was the fewest points that they scored since week 2 when they defeated Lane 14-0. So just total domination by Wingate. Benedict did still have a chance even into the second half, but was unable to capitalize on opportunities. Wingate defense just stood up and stopped them when the opportunity presented itself.
Doc, let me ask a quick question. And the question becomes, because this has been kind of a running theme all season, does it speak to the quarterback play in this particular season that if you can stop the run, it sort of spells doom or failure for the team? I mean, we've seen some years where the quarterback play has been enough to where you could throw the ball or you can, spread the ball around a little bit more. You don't become just one-dimensional. But it seems as though that's been a theme that we've seen all season. And it doesn't matter what team, that if you can stop the run, that the quarterback play just hasn't been enough to where, it's able to carry a team.
I think that's part of it. Great question. I think that's part of it. And, most defensive coordinators will tell you one of the focal point that they want to do is you usually stop the run and make a team one-dimensional, which is easier to defend. And I think to your point, this year you had, for most of the HBCU teams, you either had young quarterbacks, freshmen, sophomore, and or even those that may have been graduate transfers, JUCO type transfers they were still new to the system. So I didn't think that helped a lot. Again, we had a great discussion, those that follow HBCU Nightly Twitter discussion, and quarterback guru, if you allow me to use that, KJ Black, came on and he discussed a little bit about that. There were some concerns about the play and stuff like that. And he just talked about a couple of things, maybe young quarterbacks in terms of how they're coming out of high school. What are you able to teach them? Are we doing a good job in terms of getting true quarterback type coaches to help mechanic-wise, help read defenses? And then maybe how vast in the time that you have for certain players to really learn what it means to play quarterback efficiently. So I think when you add a couple of those things in there, you had it. I thought the biggest factor, and I want to see what Josh thinks on this before we go too far, I thought the biggest factor were two things. The line play, both offensive, defensively, I thought Wingate took it to them. This was at the point of attack. They were a little more physical, and they were able to blunt the schematic thought process of what Benedict wanted to do, and it was just from a physicality point of attack. And the second thing is, in any game, is if you are being out physical at the point of attack, that means that you have to be even more secure with the football. And so when Benedict finally got some things rolling, got the ball, got into scoring positions and things of that nature, they turned over the ball. And you just can't do those kind of things when you're already out physical with the team. That means that you're going to have to be more sound in the things you got to do to give yourself a chance. And they didn't do that. So, Josh, if you would quickly kind of close out that game, what are your thoughts in terms of what you saw in the matchup? And do you agree with what I wrote there?
Yeah, I mean, the glaring stat is 29 rushing yards. And from a coach's perspective, if you're going to make a team one-dimensional, you got to choose which dimension you would rather a team be. You would rather be able to shut down the run and make a team pass the ball for a combination of various different reasons. But at the top of that would be time of possession. When you can run the ball effectively and run the ball efficiently, you control the clock. You control the pace of the game. You control how quickly you get, how often you're getting first downs, and it removes your ability to create turnovers for yourself when you're not having to put the ball in the air as much. So in this game, if I had to circle one stat that just kind of jumps out to me as it pertains to this game, is Benedict only had 29 rushing yards. Open shut case right there from my perspective, Dr. Cavil. You shut down the running game. You make a team have to pass the ball all day long. You don't have and it's not like Benedict, and this goes to what KJ was talking about last night, is having guys at the quarterback position that are actual quarterbacks. Sometimes we might put an athlete at the quarterback position who's an athlete, and he can play the quarterback position, but is he really a quarterback? And in this game, and all season long, Benedict's quarterback play has been possibly one of those things where you it's an accident waiting to happen. If that running game doesn't get established in a game, can they be able to win a game through the air? And it showed you yesterday that they didn't have the ability to be able to do that right now. This offseason, we'll get a chance to see if they can develop and work on some small things and see how they come back next season. But as it pertains to yesterday, 29 rushing yards, game over, open shut case.
So Wingate Bulldogs defeat Benedict. So Bulldogs improved 11-2, 6-2, and Benedict's fall to 11-1, 8-0. We will announce the Division II champion. I think it's for naught, goes without saying, but we will officially announce it on Tuesday and close out the Division II chapter of the season. Obviously, the game was not in Richmond. It was in Columbia, South Carolina. So did want to give that update. Let's move on to the next game that we're talking about, and going back a little bit. This is a game that's played on Thanksgiving, as you get to sit up and carve up your turkey. You get a little football. Obviously, some people are over there watching the NFL games, but a lot of us also get a chance to focus on HBCU. So we thank Alabama State. And this year was a SWAC contest. Arkansas Pine Bluff came in winless, 0-7 in terms of what took place there in a lot of ways. Let me go to you, Mike, a little bit in terms of this Turkey Day Classic, and then we'll, AD, have you put some comments there since your old rival is Tuskegee in a lot of ways. And that game is going back to that next year in terms of Tuskegee coming back to playing that game. Alabama State Hornets fall as Arkansas Pine Bluff improves to 3-8, 1-7 on the season. And Hornets fall, previously ranked number 4 to 6-5, 4-4. Tough way to close out what was pretty much a productive season, 19-14. Mike, what did you see in that matchup?
Yeah, I think you saw you basically saw two games. You saw the first quarter where UAPB, had a 13-0 lead, and you thought, all right, it's UAPB going to pull this one out, and then here comes the third quarter, and all of a sudden, Alabama State answers with 14 unanswered points, and then you have that little last-minute finish with Kevin Britton running in for the score. I think it was like less than a minute left in regulation, but there was a game within a game here. If you look at the numbers, UAPB was 60% on third down conversions, where Alabama State was less than a third. Data point. UAPB only had 333 yards on the ground. Half of that was Kevin Britton, 165 yards by himself. Alabama State had 500 yards rushing. What's the difference? Normally a team that's total yards. And normally a team that puts that much yardage or puts that much offense on the field, you got to give them advantage. One mistake, 4 turnovers, kind of negates all of that offense. I think the other thing is that even though they were able to pull out the ground with a consistent pounding and run game, I think UAPB, their pass attempts were 4 yards per pass attempt, whereas Alabama State, theirs were 10 yards per pass attempt. So they kept their passes short, sweet, and basically stayed on the ground and kept pounding the ball and were eventually successful. They were able to get enough third down conversions to pull out the game at the end, particularly on that last drive. So, kudos to the Lions. Hard-fought game. I will just put a nugget in there. I'm kind of like AD. I kind of missed that old I-80 65 battle between Tuskegee and Alabama State. I went to that battle so many years, but I'll tip my hat to both teams. This was a great game, and the Lions pulled it out with less than a minute left.
Yeah, it certainly was entertaining in terms of watching it, as it was competitive throughout. I agree with you. Those turnovers were killers, and that will be the theme of most of these games today in terms of what happened as we get in the Bayou Classic. But before we go there and let Charles and Josh kind of close us out on the Bayou Classic, AD Drew, what were your thoughts in terms of this matchup on Turkey Day, Thanksgiving?
Kind of like what Mike said, 4 turnovers. Statistically, when you look at the matchup, Alabama State dominated the game statistically.
Yep.
But Alabama State was not able to capitalize. There were 2 times distinctly that I remember in the first half where it was 4th down. Alabama State was too far for a field goal and too close to punt. They did not convert on those situations. You throw in a missed field goal in the second half by both teams that could have shifted the momentum of the game either way, that neither one of these teams were able to capitalize on. But if you leave a team that should not hang around, you let them hang around, 9 times out of 10, they're going to find a way to beat you. Here's an interesting tidbit I want to throw out to you guys. I checked the history of the Turkey Day Classic. The only SIAC foe to ever beat Alabama State in the Turkey Day Classic is Tuskegee. No other SIAC team has beaten. And against SWAC opponents, Alabama State is 1-3 against SWAC opponents in the Turkey Day Classic. They're 1-1 against Valley. They lost. Prairie View has beaten them, and UAPB just beat them. Now, here's the interesting thing: no other opponent has beaten Alabama State. No independent opponent and no other SIAC opponent has ever beaten Alabama State in the Turkey Day Classic. So, just wanted to throw that out there for you guys to marinate on as you eat your leftovers here on.
Yeah, one other data point that I don't know if it was a day, if it was too much turkey. But you talked about statistically Alabama State controlling this game. 7 for 160 yards. in penalties. Think about it. Normally it's 7 for 80, 7 for 90. That means they had some critical. If you do the law of averages,
those are 10s and 15-yarders.
Exactly. So they gave up dang near 200 yards.
Guys and stuff like that.
Yes.
Blocks in the back.
So combine that with the 4 turnovers. They left the door open for the Golden Lions.
Say, man, I'm laughing over here because this chatter in the suite is going off. Berg said he already has his plane ticket to Atlanta. Jazzy Face say, "Oh, you coming to cheer us?" Oh, before you go off on that, because we got a chance. We're gonna close out the show with the last 2 segments of SWAC championship game, and we are to have some fun. But let's close out this first half of the season before we get in the break. In regards to the Bayou Classic, what did you see and what were your thoughts on that? Another turnover that will keep.
Yeah, I mean, this has been kind of the story of the year for Grambling football. I mean, wildly inconsistent. I mean, credit Cedric Thornton. He had that defense ready to go, and they held Southern down in this early part of the game. I think I saw a stat where Southern had run more plays than they had total yards. But again, it was untimely turnovers and untimely penalties. Although they only had 6 penalties, it seemed as though they were momentum killing penalties when they were kind of driving the ball a little bit. But those turnovers led directly to Southern scores, and credit Southern. They took advantage of those turnovers, turned them into points. And once their offense seemingly got into a little better rhythm, and that rhythm was Brashawn McCray with his running ability. They seem to be, settle down and play a better brand of football. But, it was a rivalry game. You throw things out and, all things being equal, for a second or two, it looked like Grambling was going to be able to shock the world. But, again, untimely penalties and untimely turnovers.
I think the other thing is Grambling there was a point they didn't know what they wanted to do on offense. They started out with somewhat of a balanced attack. Then they went to pass, and then they had some success running the ball. Then they stopped running the ball. So
I think Maurice Washington got hurt.
Maurice Washington got
hurt.
That was huge.
Yeah.
I said he had to get a bill in order for Grambling to have a chance.
Get out there, and that's the thing that you have with Maurice Washington. He'll give you some late-time plays, but his girth is not there for whatever reason. And the play that he got hurt on was a play that he seemed like he was about to take it off and just a tackle that really hurt his ankle. Joshua, let me go to you when you talk about this matchup here. What did you see in the game? Last night, again, I talked about the fact that you had the quarterback that just like on what looked like 2 pass plays, just decided, to give Southern the ball. I mean, literally the ball slipped out of his hand twice.
Yeah.
And they scored on both of those big turnovers. And they were both where they were moving the ball pretty successfully. That's not a lot of coaching. That's just a player not ready for the prime time.
Yeah. I mean, Doc, I'm square on with you. This is a game that I don't think I would say Southern didn't necessarily win this game. Grambling lost this game. Yep. I'm looking at the quarterback position in Southern, and I've been talking to my brother BJ Jones all week. Listen, man. There's one thing to be stubborn, and then there's another thing to just be plain silly. And what I'm seeing from Brashawn McCray at Southern right now, it ain't enough to beat nobody. Every team you going to play against going to have to beat themselves. Grambling ended up beating themselves in that game last night. 2 pick sixes.
Yeah.
Multiple guys dropping passes. You have Maurice Washington go down and get hurt in a play that's like a routine football play. You still have Chalk get over 100 yards rushing yesterday on 8 rushes. Everything pointed in a direction. And I'm going to say this, because I know it's a bunch of Southern people that's watching the show. I'm going to say this. Y'all didn't win that game yesterday. Grambling lost that game yesterday. And y'all should be almost – I'm not looking forward to what's going to end up happening at the SWAC championship game as much as I am looking forward to it being my first time in Jackson, Mississippi, in the vet, looking for all the pomp and circumstances. I'm looking forward to listening to the bands more than I'm looking forward to seeing that Southern offense go on that field next Saturday. I am totally disappointed because I thought that they were going to make a change at the quarterback position and take that quarterback position a step further, maybe not for this year, but for next year. You have absolutely no chance with that quarterback, man. I'm sorry. That's
is it not too late in the year to make this change, so to speak? I mean, I think a lot of people are asking for that, but it's like, it's too late in the year to kind of shift gears.
But it happened naturally. They did it against Valley because the young man McCray got hurt.
Yeah.
So you
let the backup
stay, and the guy played well as a backup in the game. So you had 2 weeks to put in a game plan if you can go back to him. So I mean, it was a natural situation. If you was going to make the call,
you had a built-in excuse.
You had to go far in the book to get it done. It played out that way naturally for you with the quarterback. So no, something else is going on here, and we'll see it play out. Go ahead, John.
And just real quick to that too, though, Chuck. If you look at how Bashawn McCray plays in this offensive scheme in particular, the reason why you make the change is because how many games do you think you're going to win where your quarterback has more rushing yards than he has passing yards? This is like something that I am like totally perplexed at as from a football coaching perspective, because it doesn't get you close to winning games. If that Southern defense does not play lights out like that, this might be a runaway win for Grambling. I mean, I'm just being honest. This may be a runaway win for Grambling. And to Dr. Cavil's point is, you already had the backup seemingly getting the reps, being in the position. This is you being stubborn, like we gonna do it the way we want to do it, and we not gonna make no adjustments in a game where you had everything to win to put you in a position to not only win this game, but also be ready to try to win the SWAC championship game. I just don't see it happening with this quarterback.
Hold on, Charles. We're going to take this quick break. We'll come back because we're going to get into discussion and we're going to turn it towards the SWAC championship game so we can really look at the matchups and how this will determine what's going on. So come back and we'll bring back that follow-up question and we'll turn it as we leave out of the Bayou Classic into the SWAC championship game in Jackson next week. Stick with us for this next break. We'll get into it as we get into what seems to be the playoff. Obviously, if you listen to Larry Scott, coach of Howard University, he talks about that the MEAC plays in a 5-week, if you would, playoff to get into it. So the Eagles came out of that, getting their bid to the Celebration Bowl, and now you got the semifinals, if you would, on the SWAC side with the championship game to see who's going to be their opponent in Atlanta for the Celebration Bowl. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food? Like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Press the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, Joshua Sims, and A.D. Drew. As we come back in there, I was teasing out a little bit about what essentially is a playoff format. Obviously, you have the 5-week playoff format for the MEAC. And then you have this semifinal, which is what we're talking about now, the SWAC football championship game. This week, in terms of the rankings, it's number 6 versus number 1. Southern comes in with a record of 7-4 and 5-3 after winning the Western Division. And Jackson State, number 1, comes in at 12-8-0 in the conference, number 1 in the ranking, hosting the game at Jackson. AD Drew, I know you had a stat that you wanted to talk about as we kind of close out on the Bayou Classic. And Charles, I'll let you chime in and kind of set up the tempo in terms of what you wanted to follow up and ask to get into more dialogue about how we move forward. But AD Drew, what was your stat that you wanted to discuss?
We know that this was the 49th Bayou Classic. Southern is 25-24 in those 49 games for 51%. Did you know that Eric Dooley has participated in 23 of the 49 Bayou Classics?
Wow.
As a player, assistant coach, and now a head coach. He is 14-9 in those 23 appearances, winning 61% of the time that he's appeared in the Bayou Classic. So as Coach E-Rob says, he is SWAC. Eric Dooley can say he is Bayou.
No doubt. 61% of the time. That's pretty sweet when you talk about you played in it as a player, assistant, and as a head coach.
On both sides.
On both sides of it as well. Yep, sure right. That's pretty good. Charles, what did you want to get in as we dig in a little more? In Jackson State, I know those Southern folks getting nervous when I put out 12-0 on that. But, I'm just saying.
Going back to the point, and what we were talking about with the Bayou Classic, I mean, if I'm a Southern fan and everybody, and I hear the angst in regards to quarterback play, but you still can make the argument that even though whatever you think about the quarterback play, it still has netted me 7 wins and it's gotten me to the SWAC championship. So that was the kind of the addendum that I was making to, all the angst in regards to, the quarterback play yesterday and maybe some games in there. But we've seen McCray have some very good games, especially, leading up to, maybe I might have been down the past couple of weeks or whatever the case might be, but, he's still a threat back there.
Yep.
Yeah, against who?
Yeah.
Against who? When they had 2 of the biggest teams that had the victory, had to get victories against Jackson State and FAMU. I would say that his play was not one that you thought was conducive of winning those type of games. We see what he did against Grambling, Prairie View, Texas Southern, where he lost and got shut out. But those are the teams that you were fighting in terms of your divisional alignment to get in the championship game. You get in based on a head-to-head matchup with Prairie View, which Prairie View fans will tell you what their concern was from an offensive perspective. So it's not like you beat a Prairie View team that people were excited about in terms of what they could take to another team offensively consistently. So I'm not sure what that looks like when you talk about 7 wins. And 2 of those wins are against non-Division I FCS teams. So you're talking about 5 actual FCS Division I wins. So when you look a little deep in the numbers, I'm not sure if there's much to be excited about as you may try to give some credence to Southern University.
I think that's my point, Doc.
Yeah, I'm trying to be nice to the Southern fans. And I would almost be willing to say, Chuck, that the 5 FCS wins that they have, maybe the defense won those games. We talk a lot about defense winning championships.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Bashawn McCray is a great athlete. I just don't think that he's a great quarterback. And I just don't think that he's the quarterback that can help you win games like this. I saw against a Grambling team yesterday that really, honestly, I felt like Grambling had that game. They gave that game away by mistakes that were forced by that Southern defense, which we all talked about in the preseason about Southern's defense really being the catalyst to that team. And we talked about how good that Southern defense was going to be. And I almost kind of want to give Southern's defense a little bit more credence. But I just do not think, and I'm not necessarily sure, that Bashawn McCray is the answer for Southern trying to get somewhat of a just pedestrian offense going. You know, I'm not a big fan of having my quarterback have more rushing yards than he has passing yards. That for me is like, 7 passes he completed yesterday for 70 some odd yards, man. I mean, jeez,
I would argue
Pine Bluff in that matchup. Now they were able to run the ball with multiple players, but that's the same formula that got Prairie View in not being able to pass the ball really effectively down the field. So I'm gonna go to you, Mike, and then you, Drew, to kind of wrap this up and get into more specific sides of the ball in this championship matchup. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, 2 points. I was looking at their record and digging deep in the numbers. The wins that Southern had, their defense was, if you look at just on the numbers, they were able to shut down the other team's offense and make them one-dimensional outside of FAM, outside of Jackson State. Against Prairie View, if you saw that game, I would give the defense the MVP. I would give the defense the MVP for the Bayou Classic. They were able to shut down Prairie View's offense, which basically was 3 running backs by committee. They did it successfully, but that defense was able to shut it down and make them basically non-denominational. Here, Gramblin's mistakes plus Southern's defense, basically, instead of I forget who got the MVP, I'd give it to the Southern defense.
Well, they gave it to the quarterback.
They gave it to Bashawn McCray.
Yeah.
AD Drew.
For me, it's like, and I just got to point out one comment. Brandon King said in the chat that if McCray plays like that against Jackson State, Southern is going to lose 120-0.
I just think y'all being way too hard on Mr. McCray. I think, he was a catalyst in that game yesterday because once he was able to run the ball a little bit more, they seemingly got into rhythm a lot more. Now, and you're right, Southern's defense did what they had to do, and it was a byproduct of Grambling giving them possessions. But, you still got to give credence to them being able to move the ball, and he was a catalyst for them moving the football.
Yeah, but you're talking about moving the ball against the Grambling defense versus the Jackson State defense.
Well, darn, I didn't say anything about that. That's a little different. So,
you want to get in some of this?
I just want to hold up. Now, I want to comment on Jazzy Faye in the chat. I was sure hoping for the miracle Prairie View playing the SWAC championship. Oh no, the hell you don't.
We didn't. No,
you
don't.
Better. We know better.
We're not these fanatical fans that just celebrate Prairie View because we celebrate. We know about institution. But we didn't want that smoke. We knew
we didn't want that smoke.
Our offense, and we knew some concerns on the defensive side of the ball.
We are realistic.
No, man, come on. Especially when you have 2 of your last chances to win it. When we lost to Alcorn at home on a Friday night with everything on the line to a backup quarterback that was playing for his first time. Let me do everything. You got to remember, coming into the season, I said Prairie View would finish 4th. So I thought they overachieved. And when that went down, I knew that they were in trouble in terms of the overall schematics of the game.
That Alcorn State that was the data point right there for us. That was a major data point. That Friday Alcorn game.
Yeah, no, it don't take all that. 80 Drew.
First of all, I need all my Southern Jaguars. All my Southern Jaguar fans, I need you to get this in your head. You are 5-4 on this season. I'm with Doc. Throw Lynchburg out. Throw Florida Memorial out. You are 5-4, which means you are barely over the Mendoza line. Now, Southern.
He said the Mendoza line. Did he just say the Mendoza line?
Look, Southern is averaging 25 points per game in conference, just in conference only, which is middle of the road. That is 6. Now, I want you to think about this. Against the top teams in the conference, Florida A&M, they only scored 16 points in a loss. Against Jackson State, we know they were shut out. Against Alcorn, you scored 21 in a victory. So, which leads you to think, and you scored nothing.
0 against Texas
Southern in a loss.
Explosion against Prairie.
It's been either boom or bust. And against the top teams in the SWAC, just SWAC only. We're not talking Lynchburg. We're not talking Memorial. You have busted more against the top teams than you have boomed. Also, when you statistically look at it, every conference category, Southern is middle of the road at best. Offense, defense, except total defense, they are up there. But every other category, they are middle of the road at best. When you look at the stats, who's number one in every damn category in the freaking conference? Z.I. Love.
No, that little don't give him that credit. Yeah,
don't not give him that.
Do not give him that. Do not give him that.
Numbers don't lie.
Drew, now you just saw him. Drew, you just saw him over here
like that. No, don't give him that. Don't give him that. Don't give him that. It's that little bitty school in Jackson. That's why you say it.
Don't give him that, Drew.
Don't give him that.
He was just over there like,
come on, man.
They were like, Drew, you were doing so well into that. Let's take our last break and come back, and we're gonna look at the SWAC championship game in terms of matchups. We'll look offense, defense, in terms of both teams and special teams, and kind of see where you go from
Drew,
there.
I'm disappointed in you, Drew.
Oh, come on, man, Drew. You gonna give it up like that?
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KeversVoice.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique to spice up your closet with trendy, unique looks. We have fashionable and chic looks at very affordable prices. Velvet Boutique offers free shipping all year long on all orders. Shop online at www.melvetboutique.com. That's www.melvetboutique.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique.
It's never too
Touch the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention.
Why don't you silence Drew's mic now? Like, man.
This is Dr. Bill's inside the HBCU Sports Lab. These guys are having fun doing these breaks. My AD Drew done got himself in trouble doing a little too much. He was rolling with all the stats in the way.
I'm turning my paperwork for a W.
Turn off his mic.
I can't take this peer pressure in this class.
With that being said, let me go to you first, Joshua. In terms of looking at Jackson State offense against the Southern defense, I think this is probably the most exciting part of the game, because you do have a formidable Southern defense that shows you that they can make some stops. And not only that they can turn the ball over to get it back to their offensive side of the ball, where you may have some concerns with, but just particularly looking at Southern's defense against Jackson State offense, what are some of the things that you want people to look at in terms of this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, this game is going to be won in two parts of the field. For me, as an offensive guy, I split the field into two parts. Obviously, what we can do inside the box and then what we can do on the outsides. Shedeur Sanders has shown an incredible propensity to be able to take what the defense gives him. If you play press, he's going to try to beat you somewhere else. If you play off, he's going to try to beat you underneath. You know, not even try. I take that word back. It's not try. He's going to beat you at whatever you give him. He's not a quarterback that wants to try to force the ball into certain situations. I've seen some spots where he's tried to put the ball in spots that, you know, he needs a little bit more development on as far as dropping it in the bucket in certain places. But for the most part, this is going to come down to What is Southern willing to give up to Shador? Where are they willing to be beat? And if that is, hey, I want you to try to dink and dunk me all day long, and then once we get inside the 20, we're going to let Savion Wilkerson run the ball into the end zone. It's just hard to be able to say, without the guys and without a formidable offense, or without just something possibly, making something happen on that defensive side of the ball, which Southern showed yesterday. Their defense has the ability to make something happen. Now, you make a mistake, and Southern will take advantage of that. It's just when you're dealing with a kid like a Shador Sanders, who makes very little mistakes, you have to throw things at him that he's not going to be used to seeing. And the unfortunate part about that is that they've already played Southern this year, and they know what Southern looks like. And Southern played yesterday, so you get another layer of film to be able to say, what will they throw at us? Now, what I was very impressed with, last point yesterday, was Southern's ability in down and distance and situational football to bring pressure. Whenever you can bring pressure and bring the pressure that I saw, 4th and 2, they brought the entire house and manned up, and went cover 0 in that situation. That's some stuff that, regardless to who the quarterback is, it will make you be shaky. It will make a quarterback's coach, a coordinator, have to go back and rethink. And by the time you got a chance to go rethink, the ball is on the other side of the field. The other team has the ball by now. So those are situations and down and distance situations and calls that you can make if you're Southern, to be able to throw Shador off his rocker. But on 1st and 2nd down is where we're going to see this game be won. If you get the 3rd down, then you open up your playbook and you can kind of throw some mixed blitzes in there. But it's going to be one on 1st and 2nd down. It's going to be one. Obviously, we always talk about the trench play, but I think it's going to be a big thing is, what is Southern willing to give Shador? What is Southern willing to give that offense? And then, are they willing to be beaten by whatever they give them as well? So it's going to be interesting, man. It's going to make for a great matchup offensively versus defensively.
Man, Joshua just gave a masterclass. Going to you, Mike. Chime in, still that same matchup. What are your thoughts in terms of what that looks like?
Oh, yeah, you're looking at the Southern defense. I think you saw yesterday that, and I won't even belabor that point, that there was just certain downs where the defense, they brought the house in. And there were 3 or 4 players, Jalen Campbell, Taj Brown, was it Kevin, Kelby Givens, Dumas. You wonder if they're able to bring pressure, which in certain games they've been able to bring the pressure. How is that going to force Shador to act? Are they going to bring enough pressure that Shador is going to have to adjust? Are they going to move the pocket? Do they force him to move the pocket? What does that offensive line for Jackson State allow if they bring the house like they did, particularly from those 4 players? Will the offensive line hold them at bay? What kind of coverage will Southern have? Can they go one-on-one with those great receivers for Jackson State? So I think it all hinges on what kind of pressure those 4 individuals, plus but Jalen Campbell, I'd say Taj Brown, Dumas, of course, the Prairie View transfer. What kind of pressure are they going to be? Because the next decision point, the data point, is going to be basically a chess piece. All right, you're bringing pressure up the middle. We either hold it at bay or you force us to move the pocket, which Shador has been successful in both. So
let me ask it this way, Drew, to you in terms of what would you like to see Jackson State offense coordinator do more of against Southern's defense to try to have some success? Go ahead, Charles. What are your thoughts on that?
Sorry about that.
Go ahead, AD.
Yeah, go ahead.
What would I like to see? So Jackson State's offensive coordinator do against Southern? Was that the question again?
Yes, against Southern defense. Same framework, but particularly focusing on what Jackson State and what you've seen them do pretty well. What would you, in your mind, game plan, and you want the fans to look at, what would you suggest you see more of in this matchup, maybe than the first time, or just?
Look, if I'm Jackson State, keep it simple. Don't go out and try to do too much. Yeah, you've got those big play receivers out there on the edge, but Jackson State is best when they wear you down with the run game, with the short pass game. They get you to cheat up. Now, once I get you to cheat up, try to put 7-8 men in the box. Now I beat you up top with those 4 and 5 star receivers that I have on the outside. Now I beat you over the middle with their top tight end and their slot receiver. That's if I'm Jackson State. That's what I am. That's what I'm trying to do. And Southern, basically, defensively, Southern, you've got to pretend like you in Vegas and go and gamble. You're going to have to gamble and hope that you get it right more times than you get it wrong in order to slow Jackson State down. If Southern could get Jackson State into and long situations, second and long, third and long situations, Southern will have a chance. The thing is, I don't think Southern's offense is going to help out the defense. And by the offense not being able to stay on the field and let the defense get some rest and possibly giving Jackson State short fields, I think the defense is going to be at a distinct disadvantage in this game.
Charles, looking at you, and I know you get to get into the practice. So I don't want you to get that kind of information out there. I just don't think that's fair for you for me to ask you that perspective. But obviously, when you go back to what many people refer old school is the Soul Bowl, Jackson State going down to Alcorn. That defense was able to do some things, at least slow down what Jackson State did offensively. Let me ask you from this perspective. Are there some things that you could see from Southern's defense of what they did yesterday to Grambling? Do you think they can mimic some of those things and maybe have some of the success that they had, that Alcorn had? And
I think.
If so, are there some offensive things that the coordinator is looking at to make sure that those things don't necessarily happen?
Sure, I think they can attempt to mimic some of the things they did against Grambling, but I think Jackson State's offense is most lethal when that ball is coming out of the hands of Shedeur on time. When he is able to, come out in rhythm, and Jackson State's receivers are able to win their one-on-one matchups. I mean, I think that's when they become very, very dangerous to deal with. And then you can open up the playbook. I mean, it allows for you to be balanced. It allows for Savion Wilkerson to run the ball in between the tackles. Because when you're starting to gamble, the great thing that Shedeur is he counts the box. He understands where the matchups are to be won, and he will go attack it. So it is all incumbent upon Jackson State's playmakers being playmakers. So if you're going to gamble, you're like I think AD said, you better win. You better win that gamble because if not, it's going to be a long day. But I think, the big thing for me with regards to this game, it's the fact that Jackson State's defense, and this is a stat that just literally blows me away, they've given up 12 touchdowns all season. It's literally been, I think, 11 games now where an opponent has not scored more than 2 touchdowns. And that is where this game really comes down to is again, the formula does not change. And now you have a Dennis Thurman who has seen you once this year and has had an opportunity to sort of game plan against you. I don't think a whole lot of things are going to change up that much from X number of weeks ago to now. But you've given him even more of an extra spade in the deck, if you will, to plan for it. So again, the formula is stop the run and make you throw the ball, and I think that's where things kind of fall in the favor of Jackson State. And I know we haven't said it, but I think an X factor is Travis Hunter. And we just have to acknowledge what he is able to do both on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. He's going to command attention on the offensive side of the ball, thereby opening up some things that you probably want to do opposite him. And there are times when you just want him to win his one-on-one matchup. So there are going to be opportunities for him in this ball game.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Travis didn't play in that first game, Charles.
Say it again?
I said, correct me if I'm wrong. Travis did not play in the first game.
No,
he didn't.
Okay.
No.
So Charles gave his own type of master class, and he gave you both sides of the ball. And I'm going to turn back over to the defense as he did. But Barrett came in here and said SU slowed JSU down the first half. They just got tired, which I think there's some truth to that they were able to slow them down. But that's part of the concern you have with the Jackson State defense is that that's consistent. And what Josh is saying about Southern's offense, that it doesn't lend itself to a lot of being able to keep Southern's defense off the field. So what's going to make them not tire down this time in that matchup? And now you have the ability with additional film to see how you change up schematically. You've seen what they're doing lately. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. So let me go to
let me correct myself real quick. I think Travis did play in that first Southern game.
Yeah, he did. I just thought about it.
He did. All right.
So appreciate that update there and clarity. Drew, in terms of flipping it, as Charles started talking a little bit more about the defensive side of the ball of Jackson, which is phenomenal when you put out the stat that they've given up 12 touchdowns all year long. You played 11 games. That's a little over a touchdown a game. I mean, that's tough when you start looking at that. What are your thoughts in terms of Jackson State defense against what we've all pretty much said we have concerns about Southern's offense, particularly about the quarterback they seem to want to play in this game? Great. What do you see in this matchup in terms of defense? Jackson State's going up against Southern's offense.
What Southern is going to have to do is they're going to have to get it on first and second down. Why do I say they need to get it on first and second down? Because the team that leads the conference in opponents' third down conversions is Jackson State, only giving up 20%. And going back to the last game, Southern was, I believe it was 3 of 18 on third down. Not too good. Also, looking at something else, Jackson State has given up 103 first downs this entire season. Going back to the first game, Southern only had 10 first downs, and 2 of those were by penalty. So they actually only earned 8 first downs in the entire game. They're going to have to get it and take some chances on first and second down in order to keep out, because we know Jackson State loves coming. Jackson State likes to make you one-dimensional. Southern's going to have to pass when Jackson State's expected to run, and they're going to have to run when Jackson State is expecting to pass to keep Jackson State off balance enough. And hopefully we get some big plays in there on first and second down, because third down is the money down for Jackson State.
Go ahead, Mike. Your thoughts in terms of the other side of the ball.
So when we look at offense, I do agree with him. I do agree with Dr. Drew. You should have silenced his mic anyway. But anyway,
I thought I redeemed myself, man.
You did. I do agree that the Southern defense is going to have to get some early stops. However, the question is, they're gonna have to pick their poison. You know, do you pile it up to stop the run? Or do you go?
No, I'm talking about Southern's offense. How is Southern's offense?
Southern's offense. Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. So when you look at where are the home run hitters with Southern's offense?
The receiver core is pretty nice.
I'll wait for it. The receiving core, they're in the top 15. But I think with Southern's offense, you're gonna have to get those receivers started. I mean, early, and you're gonna have to decide what is your scheme. You know, are you gonna pass to set up the run? Are you gonna hit quick hit outers, then try to hit up the middle? That defensive front for Jackson State is formidable. It's tough. How are you going to attack? You're going to have to deal with the devil at some point. Now you're going to have to decide how you're going to deal with the devil. Are you going to start
get rid of that ball quickly? That's what
exactly. That's why I say quick hitters to the outside, and maybe you can have some set and spread the Jackson State defense out. If you have any kind of hope whatsoever, maybe spread them out a little bit. So,
the running back Lagon, he's a nice playmaker for Southern. They got some things that make me pause. I have to say that about Southern. While I recognize how formidable Jackson State's defense is, you know, I guess at the end of the day, you just throw everything out the window when it's Jackson State and Southern. And as Varick makes a great point, Varick makes an awesome point. You know, Southern beats Jackson State in championship game. So, you know, if I'm a Southern fan, I want to get to Jackson for this weekend because history is on their side in that regards.
I think
Let me go.
Never mind. I think, hold up. Did you just say that, Chuck? Did you just say that with a straight face? Did you just say that with a straight face?
Yeah, he
tried to sell some tickets. That's all, man. That's that business convention bureau coming out in him.
Is that the convention bureau byline?
Yeah. Please come spend your money in Mississippi. And I've seen that commercial where they don't put any African Americans in the picture talking about coming to Mississippi.
That's not. I heard that Thaddeus Reed said in the chat line. That's not Pete Richardson coming out that locker room.
Yeah, that is true. Joshua, close us out on this in terms of this. And look at that.
Let's talk about this, right? Here's where Southern, their offense, can win the game. Drew got it started by talking about the efficiency that's going to happen on first and second down. But here's where the efficiency on first and second down is going to lend them an opportunity. If you run the ball efficiently on first and second down, there has been a lax of defenses running blitzes from the nickel, what we call money blitzes, bringing lightning blitzes off the edge, bring your DB into the outside layer of the box, bring him downhill. You shift the defense to run, go toward the run, and you bring back play action and waggle. You allow for these climb routes. You allow for these inside dig routes to the middle of the field where you lower the amount of opportunity. Here's what I will say. For everything that's great about Jackson State's defense, their linebackers can't cover a lick. And I'm going to say it now. And I'm going to say it proudly on this show. I watch a lot of football. I've watched this game my entire life, played this game my entire life. Where Jackson State's linebackers are very dangerous is if you let them read and react inside of that box to go tee off on your running back, they are going to kill you all game long. That defensive line does a great job of staying and keeping great gap responsibility. Super shout out to Coach Thurman for teaching gap responsibility and how those backers need to sit inside those gaps. But if you put those backers in a position where they now have to do a third thing, not only read and react, but they've got to also be able to cover inside of that space. Chuck, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but has those linebackers really been able to accumulate a lot of interceptions this year? I haven't seen the linebackers accumulate a lot of interceptions.
That is actually what I was getting at. By if you spread them out, you ask more people to cover more ground, to do more things. That's the only chance you got. I don't even know.
That's the only chance you got. You let the run set your base. You run the ball on first and second down. Bring play action and waggle back across from where you're shifting the defense to go, and you make the ball go to these climb routes, these inside dig routes, these short intermediate drag routes, things of that sort. That is where you have an opportunity. It is not in trying to take the top off the ball, and you say you got great receivers, and you want to throw the ball down the field and go deep ball routes and deep post route. You are going to kill your offense and the progression of that offense if you try to beat them down the field, trying to flex your muscle like we Southern, we win championship games like Chuck said against Jackson State. No, you have to be very methodical and strategic. Let the run game be what you do. But Sean McCray obviously has shown that he can run the ball. Let him run the ball. Let him get out into space and throw the ball. It's nothing wrong with taking a flat route, throwing the ball into the flat, and let your back try to get up the field. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to try to beat a team.
Josh had a question for you in terms of the cover.
No, I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of great insight, but you still got to put the ball in the hole. You still got to score, and I think at the end of the day, Dennis Thurman's first principle is keep you out of the end zone and everything, from there. So there's a lot of great thought process into how to move the ball downfield. But any good golfer knows that, at some point you got to put the ball in the hole.
And I say that
Jackson State is the best at. They are the best at keeping you out of the end zone.
Yeah, and I say that with that philosophy, Josh. I agree with you, and I agree that by spreading them out, asking their linebackers to cover more. The problem is, does Southern have all of the personnel to make that plan, bring that plan? That's why I say that. I chuckled when I say that.
No, they do not. I mean, Bashawn McCray is Bashawn McCray. I think you have to put this kid in the best position possible. If he's a runner, let him be a runner, put him out in space and let him make decisions inside of space. You cannot try to put this kid into the pocket and force him to try to throw the ball against that defense. That is going to be close to impossible. And you cannot run simple dives and ISOs thinking you're going to run inside of the most gap disciplined defense in the country. You have to put them in situations where they got to shift and move, and you got to force them to have to go you got to make them have to do something different. If you let Jackson State play their brand of defense, you are going to have another game where you won't score. It's just what it is, man. For me, Bashawn McCray is not a pocket passing quarterback. That running offense is not a running offense that is going to win with dives and ISOs and inside leads. And you got to do something, man. Run zone and pull the waggle off of the zone. Do something, man. Put this kid in space and let him throw the ball off the run. Something like that.
Well, we gave you a little extra as we broke down the SWAC championship game, and you see a lot of good information out here. I want to say thanks for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, with A.D. Drew and Joshua Sims Sr. As we check it out. We'll give you more insight and try to find different ways to break this down over the week. It'll get fascinating, and at some point, the game will be played. So we'll get all the talking heads to make sure you get all that information, which will be Tuesday and Thursday, 6 o'clock. Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. That's DrKenyattacavil. That's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattacavil. I love when folks talk about history of championship games and how that is supposed to affect the game. And I guess there could be some mental challenges of what that looks like. But when you have a whole new different coaching staff and players that haven't lived it, I think that changes a lot. And then people will be quick to talk about South Carolina State and what they did to Jackson State. The question is your defense having the ability to play that same style of defense of South Carolina State? So there's a difference between saying somebody just has to do that. Do they even play that style of defense, which is when you really get into the schematics of what we were talking and trying to share people with information of how to break down the game about the X's and O's inside that. We'll bring it back. We'll see if we can get BJ Jones in here later this week, back with Joshua Sims Sr. in terms of Thursdays to give you some insight and just schematics about the game of where you can start looking at some X's and O's. Obviously, we have Mike and Charles that do an excellent job of taking you inside the data points, inside the numbers, as we like to talk about, inside the lab where we really put the work on. So you get a chance to really look at some specific parts of the game where you can focus and enjoy all the atmosphere. Because without being said, there is one thing that we can say about the SWAC championship game, particularly when it happens to feature Jackson State and Southern. You have two formidable fan bases that will show up, be loud, and support their team regardless, which is a beautiful thing. A.D. Drew, I'm sure you'll break it down tonight with Brian. I know he's on the way back home, so maybe some questions or whether when the show will start or if you get it in. But check that out and keep up with them, because if they're able to get it in, they're certainly going to give you some more nuggets to check out. And then obviously O&G Strike Zone as they continue to do their stuff and give you insights on FAMU on Wednesdays. The pregame show, you know, they're going to take you all inside the number and not only break down different type of matchups, but they're also going to give you some of the culture that you just can't get anywhere else. So make sure you keep up with that. And then we have Carlos Brown, where, you know, he's certainly going to take you inside the Southern framework and state of mind about what they want to get done in terms of that matchup. And you know anything about Carlos Brown, he doesn't cut back in terms of his feelings of what needs to take place and what he wants to see get done and be better about his program. He's not just going to be a fan, nor do you get that from the pregame show. So that'll do it. And then obviously BJ Jones, as they'll be on HBCU Top 5 Tuesday. Joshua Sims will bring you some good stuff with HBCU Nightly on Wednesday. Back to our normal schedule as we get those things out. So make sure you check out all the shows, download my JVN, my BCSN. As you see, your support helps us to do the things that we did yesterday when you had our production team showing you a platform of the Division II playoffs. So we'll be able to continue to bring you games. I do want to give a shout out to HBCU Game Day as they're putting a tournament over there. I'm going to check that out. It went really well yesterday, and they closed it out today over there in Lincoln, Pennsylvania, we need to make sure we're doing more of those things to provide outsourcing the platform for our HBCU programs beyond of what you get anywhere else. That'll do it for us inside the HBCU Sports Lab on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Down, like, subscribe. Dream big, continue to move forward. Charles?
Of course.
Mike?
Lecture.
Eddie, Drew, and Joshua?
Dismiss. Well, holla.
Big Charles.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man. I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to